Sir, in five, four, three.
Not a fan of wimpy talk? Us either. This show is for you. Join Dee and Kim for America's first unapologetic, unfiltered podcast and radio show. We party the right way on the airwaves around here. We talk about everything. Almost. Tune in to the world-renowned podcast and radio experience. Get unleashed. And it starts now.
All right, welcome, ladies and gentlemen. How you doing today? My name is Dee. We are all together today on a special Roundtable edition. It's two ladies, though, and Dee, so that's kind of cool. Anyway, we're going to get down to some real conversation about the state of the nation, and we hope all of you guys enjoy what we have to say. These are things that we think are very important to talk about right now in the nation. As you all know, it's been a completely insane week in good ways and really bad ways with the country, from assassination attempts to the RNC convention, which had a lot of positive moments. A lot of things really even blew my mind. Someone stopped me at the store on the way over here because they had a Let's Go Brandon shirt on. I said, cool shirt. And they were like, yeah, that was the coolest convention since the Reagan. This was an older gentleman. And I'm like, whatever your opinion is, that's great. But do I think the convention had a lot of great moments? Of course I do. But the things that led up to that are the things that myself and the other beautiful ladies that are joining me today, that led us all here. I was a musician growing up, and most musicians are liberals. But it wasn't like that when Ronald Reagan was president. Well, after that, things changed in the country. But I just want to say, before we get started here, nothing makes me feel worse than all these musicians who are basically 1000% left-wing idiots now. I mean, it makes me sad because a lot of them I respected. I've lost a lot of that respect for them. They just don't care. And yes, there are musicians that are on the Republican or at least the conservative side. So good for you guys for standing up. So anyway, we're going to be talking about Moms for Liberty today. We're going to be talking about all that. We're going to tell some stories today. We hope you stay involved. And then the main thing we want to do, because we live in Mississippi, one of our guests, Kim, lives in Rankin County, and Lindsey Beckham and myself, we're in Madison County. And we're also part of the Madison County Republican Committee. And we want to stress how important it is not just to vote for Trump, but we have to, hold on to the houses, the senates, nationwide, locally, election commissioners. All of that stuff is so important. And we get caught up in the spotlight of the Trump picture, which I'm all about Trump. Don't get me wrong. I love Donald Trump, best president ever. But we get caught up in all of that, and we miss out sometimes on the fact that wherever you live, wherever you're watching this, I don't care if it's in Wisconsin, California, or Mississippi. And yes, there are some Republicans in California. You may not believe me, but it's true. Anyway, we get caught up in that. We need to focus in on our local elections, which are also November 5th for a lot of them. This November, which is months away, not a year, months away. So anyway, I'm going to introduce Lindsey and let her tell us a little bit about what she's got going on at the moment. She's a busy woman. She is phenomenal. She has always been about the children, and that's why I respect her tremendously, as well as Kim Steinbrink. Not only do they have kids, not only are they single moms, but they take care of their kids. They stand up for their freaking kids, and they stand up for the bad things. And trust me, there's a lot of bad things coming at children and adults at this point every day in this country. So, what you think, Lindsay?
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. It means the world to me when people realize just how badly it's needed for people to stand up and fight for our children and their futures. And I think COVID really woke a lot of people up. And that's when your parents really saw what was going on in the public school system because they were doing school from home. So this distance learning that was happening and the masking and the forced vaccinations, and that's when parents started to show up at school board meetings, and, I'm just as guilty as anyone because up until that point, you know, I had been involved with Mississippi Parents for Vaccine Rights because I have a child who's vaccine injured, and that was kind of my heart and my passion, but I had, my head in the sand when it came to education and the things taking place in our public school system. So when COVID hit and parents actually started to show up at these school board meetings and realize that they did not care what we had to say. They didn't listen to parents. There was an agenda. It was very clear. And nothing any parent said was going to change their mind on the things that they were pushing. And a lot of that is because it's coming from the top down. And there's so much federal funding tied to the decisions that these school boards are making across the entire country. So, that's kind of how Moms for Liberty was formed in 2021. There were two school board members who had just lost their seats on the school board. They did not win their reelections, and COVID hit, and they knew that we had to do more. And therefore, Moms for Liberty was formed, and our mission statement says that we're dedicated to fighting for the survival of America by unifying, educating, and empowering parents to defend their parental rights at all levels of government. We know that it's a parent's fundamental decision and on how they bring their child up, and it should be no one else's call, the parenting decisions of a parent. These are our children. They are not the government's children. And we were born with rights, not given to us by government. Therefore, government cannot take them away. These are God given rights to raise our children. So it was just time that we had to stand up and fight. And I think the reason in Mississippi why it's been so important is because people think that we have a super Republican majority. We are so red, we are so conservative, and those things can never happen here. I'm told that over and over and over. And, I finally said, forget the school board level. They don't listen to me. I'm going to go over your heads. And that's how I kind of got involved in the legislative process and really getting involved in the GOP party and in politics. And I just don't see how I could not be involved in at this point because I know so much now. I know the corruption. I know the things that are taking place and the things that are being pushed on our children. So all parents need to stand up and fight for our children and their future.
Amen. Couldn't have said it better myself, literally. And so I met Lindsay a while back from our wonderful friend Clay Edwards, of course, who's also always fighting for what's right and standing up for the children because look, these are not only our children, because my kids are grown, but they're also the future of the freaking country. And our theme today is kind of state of the nation right now. And unfortunately, like Lindsay had mentioned, and Kim, I want you to talk about this a little bit. Everybody just assumes that Mississippi is completely red. Oh, that wouldn't ever happen in Mississippi at the school. That would never happen in Mississippi at your local school. There's no way that educators would be teaching them all this crazy stuff. And Kim, I know you still have someone just like Lindsay who's about 13 or 14 years old, correct?
Right.
So tell us a little bit about that situation and how you feel about it.
Well, I'll be honest with you. Thank goodness I am in a school that is mostly pretty conservative, and unlike really a lot of schools around where she is, they actually do still even try to keep got in the school. So, but it is because in that area, you have parents that are paying attention and they know it's kind of like they know they can't step out of line because you would have 50 parents, at the next school board meeting. And that's really what it does take. And one reason why I was glad we moved here from Jackson is because I knew for a fact I did not want her going to a Jackson school because it would be all about the federal funds, all about, what's going to get them more money, which obviously does not even go back to the children and their education. Most of it does not. So, she is there, and yes, there are some things even there that have been questionable. But again, like I said, it's not anywhere close to what I've seen in Mississippi. I mean, some things I will get stories where I'm like, wait, that's Mississippi? Why is that being taught there? And it's being, it's because it's being slid under the parent's eye. Hopefully they're not talking about it at home. And then of course kids talk. So, you know, yeah, that's been my experience with that. And thank goodness, as far as right now, it really her school has been kind of a leading, shining example of what we do need, when parents are involved. So
All right. Thank y'all so much for that. And it's so very important because what this leads into is the state of the nation. The state of the nation, I know everybody, on X, Facebook, Instagram, the rest of the social media networks, children are on there, but not only children, we're on there as adults. We can see through the BS that they're telling and actually, quite frankly, teaching our children. Now, I'm older than y'all, so, my generation, it wasn't like that, and I'm so glad that it wasn't. But we want it to be more like it was when we went to school. Now, the Democrats and the liberals and the far left AOC type people who've completely lost it, they want, I don't even know what they want anymore except for destruction, obviously. But we shouldn't have to put up with this. You know, do I think that they're gonna be able to shut down the Department of Education? Probably not, but they need to redo the Department of Education because this is where it started, and this is where it all started, and it started way a long time ago. It just didn't hit Mississippi way a long time ago, but it started fermenting inside of states like California, Washington State, Oregon, mainly the West Coast, and it fermented all the way through to the New Yorks, to the Chicagos, to the Detroit, Michigans, and it just sunk in, and they really went head to head with the city. And the rural schools, they weren't so much really paying attention, obviously, the parents, because they weren't paying attention because they didn't think they had to pay attention. I'm paying money, or either they're going to a public school to learn math, writing, reading, history, like we all did. But in fact, all that other stuff was being slid in. Okay. And then, of course, social media came out, so on and so on. And we sound like a broken record on that. But it is true. That's how it started, and it continued to drop. And when Obama became president, Barry, Barack Obama, Hussein, when he came president, it started getting, slid in more and more, slid in more and more. And, and of course, Trump won as I worked the campaign in 2015. And things got way better. I mean, did they get perfect? Nobody's capable of that, but they got way better. And then the country got divisive to the point to where, everybody hated on Trump, but they all loved him back in the day, when he was donating real estate. Again, that goes back to the celebritards, you know who I'm talking about, and the fake elite people. So, which brings me into the next subject I wanted to talk about. The feeling, we're going to talk about our personal feelings. But in my personal feeling, I was sitting on my couch watching the rally not that long ago, like a week exactly today. Saturday, July 20th is when we're doing this show, so it's been exactly a week. I was sitting on the couch when it happened, and I'm like, "Wait a minute," but, things happen so fast, it's like, whatever. But when I saw him go to the ground, because 'cause they're trained, any public speaker, go to the ground, and I saw all those Secret Service agents jump on top of him and pile up. It's the most bizarre feeling, and most people, especially unless you're above 55 or so, they don't remember any other president being shot in their lifetime. I mean, I vaguely remember Ronald Reagan getting shot, but I was a kid, I was young. But even that freaked me out. But this whole Donald Trump thing, watching it completely live, it was one of the freakiest things I ever saw. And then the ultimate moment for all of us is when he stood up with blood on his face, fight, fight, fight against the Democrats, fight, fight, fight for our freedom, fight, fight, fight to make this a better country, not fight, fight, fight for violence, like the Democrats are going to say from now till the end of eternity. But that's beside the point. And then rolling into, did it change him a little bit? In my opinion, I think so. I mean, it would change anybody on a near death experience. I mean, I, I've never been actually shot like that. And most people haven't, most people haven't. And it should never happen. And we're going to dive into that story a little bit. But what was your feeling, Lindsay, immediately?
Immediately, I was in disbelief. How could this happen? With the technology we have, with the training that the Secret Service agents receive, I just never thought I'd see anything like that in my lifetime. I had the privilege of meeting Donald Trump last summer in Philadelphia at our Moms for Liberty conference, and the Secret Service agents were right on top of us. Like, we couldn't move. They were so strict. They had background checked all of us weeks in advance. Prior to that, they had rerouted him getting there, I think maybe 3 or 4 different times because of the protesters and because they didn't feel it was quite safe enough. They were just really extreme. I didn't think anything like that could ever happen, and so it's not unknown that I've never been the biggest Donald Trump fan in my life. I've spoken about that a lot. I was a DeSantis girl, and because he's done so much, in education and for parents, and so I haven't always been the biggest fan, but of course he's the Republican nominee, and I know that Republicans have to win this election. So I was more on board with him than ever before. But when I saw him hit the ground and then come back up and want to show the people that he was okay, and he put his fist in the air, and I thought to myself, that's my president. That's the man I want running the country. That's the person I want taking care of the big decisions, because he just he says all the time, "They don't want me, they want you, and I'm just standing in the way." And I said this on Clay's show the other day. I feel like that as a mom. They don't want me, they want my kids, but I'm gonna stand in the way. And so that related to me in that moment. And then to see him, you walk out on stage that first night of the convention as they're playing, as Lee Greenwood singing God Bless the USA, and there were tears just pouring down my face. It just seemed so surreal, and of course, my conspiracy theorist mind is going in 900 million directions trying to figure out what happened, who was behind it. Why were there not drones? Why were the buildings not secured prior to the rally? None of it makes any sense, and it shows me just how divided the country truly is. But I thought, what 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 a great time to bring in the message of unity is right now, after we see something like this take place tragically. And thank goodness, that it wasn't worse. I know you've probably seen the diagrams of the way that he turned his head just at that last second. And I was appalled at some of the left media who have talked about him saying that God was with him, because clearly God was with him. It was a miracle that played out in front of our eyes. And so for anyone to say that he's saying that, for him saying that is wrong, to me, that's disgusting on the Democrats' side for any of their people to be saying something like that.
Yeah.
What do you think, Kim?
Well,
I know what you thought because I called you and said you're not going
so
to
I
believe
was
this.
working.
Right.
I wasn't able to watch the rally. And yeah, Darrell calls me. Thank goodness I was on a break, could take the phone call, and he just like, Trump's been shot. And I'm just like, what? Yeah, he's been shot. So I mean, I didn't even get to look at the footage for a little while, but when I did, I mean, it kind of even creeped me out knowing, okay, I know this is coming up, like I know what's about to come up, and watched it, and just how it happened, how quick it happened. And like you said, how close it was. Like you could tell even just watching that, how close it was um, to going through into his brain. And it was just, like you said, it was surreal. It was like, as I was watching it, I you know, you kind of just go kind of have an out of body experience a little bit. And it was crazy because at the same time, even though it didn't happen to me, like I went through some emotional states and thinking, kind of life flashed before my eyes at the same time because we all know and people have even been talking about, with everything that's going on right now, how he can, oh, he's saying this is going to get him shot. This is going to get him shot. And just to me, I hated even talking about that because I don't want to put that out in the universe. And then, here we go. And I was nervous actually for a little while, but then really, when he stood up, like you said, when he stood up and he put his fist in the air, it really was a changing moment. Even though I am a huge Trump fan, it just made me even more on board because he's he's not scared. The whole point is having someone with a backbone. He's willing to get up after just being shot, not even knowing if there's someone else that's
Mhm.
going to shoot him when he gets
Yeah.
up, and just, and I heard stories right after that of, you know, him getting phone calls and like asking how he is. And all he wanted to say is how thankful he was about the whole crowd that didn't run off and didn't leave and that they were there. And, you know, people were saying that he seemed like he had changed or he had seemed like, it seemed like he was sad. He wasn't sad. I think when something like that happens to you, you are going to change in a certain way. And I think it kind of came to grips with him. And instead of running away, he's just, he's pounding it harder. So it re-solidified, my excitement to have him running right now, and that we need him here because we need someone like that with a backbone like that is not scared because there's multiple people trying to go after him right now. So I'm just glad to have him
Yeah,
there.
I feel like Lindsay had brought it up, and me and Kim talked about it all week. And so the whole country right now is trying to figure out which conspiracy works on what went wrong. But here's the deal: no matter what, all of them are right about one thing. Something went wrong at the rally. Something went wrong. If it's this person, this person, that group, it was a debacle failure to allow a person. I saw Josh Hawley yesterday live in live in Pennsylvania at the place. It is so close that it blew my mind. There's no possible way that guy could have pulled all this off without somebody doing something, unless you're undermanned and under resourced, which they were. But also, this lady that is the head of Secret Service, I mean, the right thing to do would have been, she said, because she said it, not us, not Trump even, that the ball stops with her. She takes responsibility. Well, then step down. I mean, step
Should have
down.
happened
Right.
immediately.
I don't know any corporate job. I don't know any organization. I don't even know of any retail job where if you had a major debacle and you said the buck stops with me, that they wouldn't say, okay, well, the job stops with you too. I
Yeah.
mean, it just
Yeah.
does. Now, if this would have been the opposite and a Democrat leader, and probably even another Republican leader, let's be honest, but especially a Democrat, they would have been every single agency that the top people would have been fired. They would have been talking about it every single day, like publicly. These people, Homeland Security, Secret Service, FBI, they're not even talking. And when they do, it's one sentence. But they're going to be held in oversight committee by the Congress. I just hope, but we always get our hopes up. We always get our hopes up because we
Right.
do have some good people up there. A lot of people always say, and it does feel this way, so I have to agree, well, nothing gets done. Well, that's not necessarily true. It may not always get done exactly like you want it, but something gets done. People are aware, and hopefully we'll get some answers because there's servers now in China that this kid had.
Mhm.
There's drones that he was flying over the site hours before it happened.
Detonator.
I mean,
Yeah.
detonators. There's him walking up to the police or right by the police with a rangefinder. How could
And a
that
ladder.
And a
happen?
Like
ladder,
where the
yeah.
ladder, how the ladder get
How did he
there.
get up there? I just,
And I wanna say too, if it had been Biden
oh yeah,
up
yeah.
there,
Say his name
but,
because you're right.
I think we still would have had that emotional response
Oh,
because
Of course.
yes.
watching a president or a former president be shot on TV in front of your eyes is going to incite that emotion, and what that means for our country.
It could have been any politician, in my opinion, and I would have felt the same way. It
Right.
could have been any friend of mine. It could have been any preacher. It could have been any speaker publicly speaking. The last thing that you want to see is for somebody to get freaking assassinated.
Mhm.
That is tragic for the country. It was tragic for Kennedy back in the day. Now, I'm not old enough to remember all that, but from what we have read and been taught and seen and looked at through our lifetime, people still to this day,
Mhm.
that completely changed the country.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah.
That complete, and I remember when I was in however old I was when Reagan got shot, they literally came in and stopped our class in the middle of school. And I mean, as a kid, and said, our president of the United States just got shot. Everybody call your parents and y'all go home together. Okay. It's just, it's a very disappointing time in the country when someone gets assassinated or attempted to be assassinated. Now, fortunately, we don't have to finish that out because Trump, like Lindsay said, if you don't believe in miracles, let me say two things. You should go back and watch the video of Trump with the attempted, or either you should watch a baby being born and then come back and tell me you don't believe in a freaking miracle.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't get those people that say, I don't believe in a miracle.
Yeah.
Well, then you've never seen a baby born.
But I mean, how can you sit there and say it's not a miracle? Seriously,
Right.
whenever you see, and they have now tons of videos
Yeah.
where it's like showing the trajectory and showing I mean, he turns his head at the exact moment that if he hadn't turned it in that split second,
And
he
turned it
wouldn't
that
have been
exact
here.
way.
And, everything was positioned, and if he hadn't have done that, he wouldn't be here. And you see the trajectory of where the bullet came through. Obviously, because I mean, that was the part where he did this, eh, that could, I mean, he wouldn't have been here if he hadn't have done that. He wouldn't even been able to do that. It just, yeah. So anyone that's saying that, I think they're just trying to get a rise, because there's no way you can look at that and think that wasn't a miracle.
But on the other side of that, there are a lot of people who it did wake them up.
Mhm.
Now, in a good way.
Yeah.
It did wake them up in a good way. Sure, we're going to have the haters on the, whatever. We're going to have haters in this world. That's unfortunate, but true. But a lot of people woke up and went, wow, this guy, like Lindsey said, I want this guy fighting for my country. I want this guy developing policy that actually works. I want this guy going after the Department of Education when needed.
You know what else? It really kind of makes you think. Now, obviously, the Democrats always want to win,
Oh, yeah.
and just like the Republicans do, and they're going to go back and forth at each other. But what is it about this man in particular? They are
So
just
scared.
they are terrible. What is it about him that they just do not want him in office? It's they've come harder after him, I think, than any president or any presidential election I've seen in my lifetime.
In my opinion, I think it's because he's got so much from the last 4 years, and I think before that, has got so much dirt on so many people that so many people know that he literally knows their sins
And he's not
and can
afraid.
expose it, but hasn't yet. So they're trying to silence him so that he doesn't. You know,
Part of it, for sure.
yeah, and that he can get things done. He can literally bulldoze things through. I mean, you see the accomplishments in 4 years. There's no way he has the most accomplishments of any president, and that's a short, half of what most presidents when they win their second term even has the ability to fill. So that's why they came so hard on him not winning in 2020 because they knew he would finish actually making America great, and they don't want that because it doesn't that's kind of where I say he knows so many people are ready and out to get him, and it's not just people in America, it's people around the world.
It is. It is. And I know y'all don't remember this, but old D does. But I didn't understand it at the time, though, because I was a kid. I didn't get it, at all. But now I do. But, they hated Ronald Reagan. I mean, hated Ronald Reagan. And he won in a landslide. And I didn't get it at the time, but I can remember my granddad, because believe it or not, in Mississippi, where we live back then, they did not vote for Reagan. They voted for the Democrat. Okay. Why? I don't know. I'm not saying all of them, but the majority of them did. This was a Democrat state back then, so that's one reason. But I can remember, and we lived in the country, and I think my grandparents were the only people for Reagan or any that I was young that I know of. I couldn't vote then, but I can remember going, why because there wasn't all the TV, there wasn't all the social media, podcasts, videos, etc. back then. So you got 3 channels. But I can remember them interviewing people on the streets. They were saying the same type stuff they say about Trump, except for it wasn't explicit back then like it is now, because they'll say anything now. But and I said, why does everybody hate him so much? And my granddad said, that's why I'm voting for him. If all those politicians hate him that much, all those people in DC hate him that much, he needs to be president. And he won by a landslide by being the people's president. The exact same theme, literally, that we're still doing 40 something years later is the same theme that Donald Trump's running on.
And that's the thing, he doesn't need to do this.
No.
He's lived a very successful life. He's got a beautiful wife, he's got a beautiful family, grandchildren, he loves to play golf. He could go home to his, his Mar-a-Lago, which is beautiful, live with, his family and spend time on the golf course every day, all day. He doesn't need this, yet he's doing it because he cares.
Yeah. I mean, I've thought of the same thing, I mean, he's a billionaire, multi-billionaire, and he's done I mean, you can literally look around in America and the world and see where he's, touched, in those areas, and everybody loved him. He was very popular, celebrities, everybody loved him. he literally could have just sailed off in the sunset, see you later,
Mhm.
and nobody would have thought anything. But even down to the assassination, but even before then, it's like he just keeps taking these hits, and he keeps standing up. And, to the same thing, he doing a rally today. I mean, it didn't stop him. They were trying to talk him out of going to the convention. He said no. I mean, he's still going along, and it hadn't stopped him at all. And you can definitely tell that he is very grateful and thankful. And I think a lot of that even has been enhanced since the assassination attempt, because he sees how much support he has now and how much more support he has. And like you said, it waking people up. I was watching videos where people who said they have voted Democrat even in the last election. And this one lady was crying because she could not believe, all the stories about how Trump has helped, and she was told a lie. And it just, it brought her to tears.
Yeah.
And so it's constantly waking people up. So I mean, just, amen to that.
The video
That's
of
a
the
miracle
hospital,
too.
when they pulled up at the hospital and the people that were standing there had heard he'd been shot, and so they're thinking he's gonna come in, on a stretcher. They don't know if he's dead or alive, and
Right.
then they see him walk in, and you can hear him screaming, "He's alive, he's walking, he's," and just people are crying and just
Wow.
so emotional.
Wow.
Yeah. And like Kid Rock said, Bibles aren't allowed in schools, but they're allowed in prisons. But if Bibles were allowed in schools, less people would be in prisons.
That's right.
Mhm.
That's
I
right.
gotta agree with that.
Yeah.
And that came straight up from Kid Rock. Bobby, Kid Rock. But seriously, I can't even fathom. I mean, because my kids are grown and gone, but I just can't fathom all these crazy things that are going on. And I hate to keep moping on that, but Lindsey is a hero around here for that. And what we need to do in Mississippi, though, I mean, everybody in the House and Senate right now is Republican except for Benny Thompson, basically. So, you know, we are going to always talk about Benny Thompson because somehow or the other, for 38 years or whatever it is, he continues to win. He continues to have the most poverty. Everything is in Benny Thompson's district. And now he has the nerve to be on a committee that's going to look into the Secret Service. I
I
mean,
mean, if what an embarrassment to Mississippi. Not only the staff member who made the horrible comments within hours of Trump being shot, but also the fact that he authored the bill that would have removed Secret Service protection from Trump. I mean, that's just basically calling for his death.
Right.
insane.
Blows my mind.
I mean, it does. I mean, you're right. And all of that, those people, unfortunately, Benny Thompson is still a Mississippi person who's been, I mean, to the core, ladies and gentlemen, rotten, corrupt to the core. All the info's out there. You don't have to listen to me or anybody in this room. You're welcome to go do your own research if you don't believe us. But hopefully, this podcast goes around the nation and around the world. And if you're one of those people that's an influencer on whatever you're an influencer on, please reach out to Ron Eller. That's roneller.com, and have him on your program, your podcast. Put his name on a napkin, whatever it is, to unseat Benny Thompson, because we've had enough, y'all. He's not good for our state, but he's really not good for our country. I don't know how this guy sat on the Homeland Security board or committee. I mean, I don't even want to know, probably. But not only did he, refuse Secret Service, he also refused it to Kennedy, whose uncle and
Mhm.
father got assassinated.
And what did Donald Trump do shortly after an assassination attempt, calls for Secret Service protection to be given to Kennedy, and it was.
As it
Amen.
should be. This man's uncle and dad
Right.
got assassinated, okay? That's insane. First of all, for that to happen in one family twice, that's insane. Anyway, that's a whole nother story. But I was moving it back to local for a minute. But, Benny, he's got to go. We all know that.
And that election is in November. He can be unseated in
Yes.
November.
Yes.
But
Everybody's just got to get out and vote. Seriously, vote.
speaking of that, Kim, there's a 15-year-old kid. Tell us about. We love his journey so far. We love his passion and what he's been doing. And he's wicked smart.
Yes. And actually, he's having one of these events today, actually. And I told him, I'm sorry, we're doing a podcast. So I'm glad we're bringing him up. So he is 15 years old, and he has one. Yeah, he actually has a YouTube page that, takes Donald Trump speeches and clips them up, makes them look nice. And he's got a pretty good following on YouTube. It's at MS for Trump on YouTube, but he has been wanting to start locally a Trump and American flag waves, really every weekend, every other weekend. He's wanting to have them a little more often. He was starting them, just doing them at the end of his neighborhood with his friends. And so he was on our show, SK Podcast, a few weeks ago. And I said, you need to bring that out. You need to do that, broadly, and let's get some more people involved. And last week, the day that Trump was shot, so that was another kind of crazy thing that happened that day. But we had the one over there off of where was it? Grants Ferry. And we actually had so many good responses. We had people coming up to him. I mean, just really wanting to meet him because, here's this young kid out here putting out the signs, waving the flags, just very energetic, wanting to get Trump's name out there. And just he's also wanting kids to be more patriotic. That's another reason why he's doing this. And he's trying to get his friends more involved in, in the political process, because that's the future, which is what I told him. I said, y'all are the future. We had a Marine stop by, lieutenant, and he stopped by, talked to him for a little while, but just before we left, he came back by and gave him his Marine cap that's obviously seen a lot of days. He said, no, Marines do not give away their caps, but I want to give this to you because I'm inspired by you. And, so I told him, I said, see, here's your first day. I said, you do this more often and it's going to inspire people. And right now, that's another just positive thing that we need to be doing and all from a 15-year-old kid. It just, I keep repeating it because it's just amazing. He literally never gives up. He constantly is messaging me about, should we do this? Should we do it here? What time should we do this? He is constantly thinking about it. So it's, it's inspiring to me. And, if you come to one of these, I've told him, get the message out, we'll be sharing it around. So if you follow any of our pages, we'll let you know when the next one is.
Yeah, I want to circle back because that kid's amazing. I've heard him on radio shows and on Kim's particular show. And to be 15, he's going far in this world. And that always gives me a great feeling when I see young people involved. But we're going to circle back right now and drill down before we end this on Madison County. Lindsey and myself live in Madison County. We're also in the Madison County Republican Committee. And we got a couple of good things going on. There's I voted.
Speaking of getting children involved and younger generation,
And Lindsey, I think your daughter was in it last year as well.
She did.
I mean, not last year, 4 years ago.
No, it was last year. It was.
Oh, it was for the governor race.
Yeah.
Right.
Yes, she. They had a first, second, and third place, and she got third place. So
awesome!
Oh, congratulations.
She's shooting for first place this year.
Yeah, she is, and I think that's cool to get the kids involved. So We have a group on Facebook. It's called Madison County GOP, and you can join the group. It's free, of course. Anybody's welcome. We don't care. Everybody's welcome. Unity, y'all. That's what it's going to take in my opinion, in the whole world, but definitely in the United States of America right now. We're in a place that it's divisive, and they can point fingers back and forth. But the Democrats, they're real divisive. I mean, they're so divisive, they're trying to kick Joe Biden out, and they're one day he's going to be the nominee, the next day he's not. One day he's going to be, the next day he's not. But it just shows you that Nancy Pelosi and about 4 other people run the country in that party, in the Democrat Party. It's really about, I mean, honestly, it's probably about 20 people, but it's true. Those 20 people run that whole party, and when they think it's time for you to go, it's time for you to go. They'll sell you out like that. I don't think that's cool, and they shouldn't do that to anybody. And I think they should, if Biden wants to stay in, then just leave him alone. Now, personally, I think he's sick, and he probably does need to be in a nursing home, and I'm not being ugly. It's just a fact, because I have gone through that dementia, Alzheimer's thing 2 times with family members, and it's obvious, I mean, everybody can say whatever they want, but we all know. And they've hidden it from everybody for the last 4 years, and his staff runs our country. How does that make you feel? A bunch of high school graduates who are completely just running wild with the country that we live in.
Someone needs to be held accountable.
I mean, the country is being ran by staffers and Obama's former staffers. And
that man's certainly not running it.
No.
There's just no way.
No, he can't put a complete sentence together. There's no way that he can formulate those types of ideas, even if they're crazy.
Yeah, I mean, even if they're crazy, you're exactly right. I don't know if it'll be Kamala Harris. I don't know if it'll be Biden fighting them and them just saying, okay, we give up. We're not going to kick you out. I don't know what it's going to be. But what I do know what it's going to be, regardless of whether it's Joe Biden, Kamala Harris, or these other names, Gretchen, whatever, the rest of these clowns, it will still be the same staffers, probably at 80% of them. It will be at least 50% of the direct staffers, and it will be the same agenda. So whether it's Joe Biden or not, it's the same agenda. So that's why we have to get on board with Agenda 47, which, by the way, is the Mississippi GOP platform. If you've never read it, go to MSGOP and read the platform. It's called Common Freaking Sense, y'all.
Yes.
Common sense, values, correct leadership, our children,
Fair
the
elections.
flag, everything, and then free and fair elections, obviously.
Yeah.
Free.
That's how we get that.
I mean, and Kim knows. Speaking of that, there's a lot of things going on. Chip Matthews and Timothy Jenkins are going to be doing. They're looking for poll workers. They're looking for poll watchers. Like I said, Madison County GOP is the Facebook group. It's not a page, it's a group, but come on in.
A lot of events coming up to get out the vote.
Get out the vote. There's a lot of get out the vote events. The
voter registrations.
The women.
Yeah, Madison County Republican women have teamed with the Madison County GOP to do a lot of voter registration events and get out the vote events coming up. So yeah, go to that Facebook page and see what's coming up. Get out and get involved.
And this is what we always say. Everybody can talk a big game. Everybody, I'm talking about on either side. It doesn't matter, just in life, generally speaking. But we're good with that. I'm glad you can talk a big game, but get involved because it's that important. There's never been, and we say it all the time, but we're not kidding, by the way. Hello. It has never been this important to vote for proud, conservative people. Remember, your children, your grandchildren, your neighbors, their grandchildren. It's all the future of America. Do we really want to leave this on our kids and grandkids? No, we don't. I know for sure us three in this room don't. And I know for sure everybody I've ever talked to in my entire life, no matter what side of the fence they're on, they want the same. They want to leave this country better. We can't do that when we consistently have very far left Democrats, small group of people with big mouths and big platforms that are ruining the country.
And
Yeah,
big power.
Right. One thing I pride myself in is that I know my kids will never have to ask me, "Why did you stay silent?" You've got to use your voice, and you've got to, like you said, this is the future. Don't leave a big mess for our children. Thomas Paine has that saying, if trouble must come, let it be in my day, so that it's not for my children. And, I just urge everyone, if you are not involved and you care about education and the future of education and the future of our children, momsforliberty.org. If you don't have a chapter in your area, consider starting one. If you want to join my chapter of Moms for Liberty, go momsforliberty.org and you can search for Madison County and join that chapter, and we would absolutely love to have you. I mean, there is power in numbers, and we can do big things. We can make a difference. We've just got to come together, get involved, and do it.
See, this fully reminds me of when everything was going crazy around 2019. Just everything was going nuts, and everybody's like, "Do something, get involved. Do something, get involved." And in my head, I'm like, "Well, I don't know. I'm a single mom. I, have a full time job. I don't really know what I can do." Of course, we had the idea, hey, let's speak our minds, let's do this. But now there are places that you can go and get involved. So you really don't have that excuse.
Right.
There's definitely plenty of things now that you can get involved in. And the more you get involved, the more it raises awareness and then people know about it. So, I'm glad to hear this. I'm glad that there's more things to get involved in, to where there are more eyes on situations like that you can get involved in. So,
Right, and if you just want to know what's going on, I know you guys have the SK podcast. You've got Unleashed Entertainment Talk. I've got a podcast called Raising Liberty, and you can find all three of our podcasts just by searching those, the name of our podcast, and listen to we'll keep you updated at least, and let you know what's going on so that you're aware.
Yeah, because now more than ever is the right time to be updated.
Mhm.
I mean, it just is. And, everything is not negative, by the way, but I just want to say that everything we talk about
Right.
is not negative, y'all. There is a lot of great things going on in this country. Like I said, it got hijacked by a small group of people, the squad and the rest of the maniacs that just don't make any sense. But they had big voices, big power, and the freaking media.
I was about to
That's
say the
what they
mainstream media
had.
is not you're not always gonna get the truth there.
That's right, and you're just not, and that is a fact. I'm not here today to dog all the media because y'all already know. I mean, I don't have to say it again. It's been said 1.5 million times, and you already know. But just remember this: when you're watching this show, another show, the mainstream media, whatever it is, at the very least, listen to what they're saying, because they're going to tell you. You can tell when they're bent to the left. And unfortunately, 98% of them are bent to the left. You can tell just by listening. Doesn't take anything more than listening skills. That's it.
And research it for
course.
yourself. Look it
Mhm.
up. That's what we try to tell our viewers all the time. Like, we can only go by what we know right now, and if you're watching us a few days later, it may have changed. So go look it up for yourself so that you stay informed, because that's the best way to know if something's the truth or not, is when you see it with your own eyes.
Yep. We no longer have straight news, but I don't think it's possible. anymore to have straight news because we're in a world and a nation now of
Everybody has an agenda.
right. Everybody has social media, so and there's always a way to get your message out. Whatever your agenda is, they're going to get it out regardless of whether we like it or not. They're going to do it anyway. But that's okay. I mean, I'm all about free speech, but it's ridiculous though when it's hate speech. There's a difference. It may be a tiny difference, but that is a very different animal. Hate speech versus free speech. They always try to say that Trump is this and that and the hate speech. And usually when they're saying that, it's because what they are, a threat to democracy. And
a threat to democracy, huh?
And Kim's shirt actually sums it up, which,
Yep.
first of all, we're not a democracy. We're a constitutional
republic. Sorry, I scream it from the rooftops because we even have people on our side, and I get it. You've grown up with the term democracy, but we are not one, because that's exactly why we are more free than the other countries
Party.
the other countries that are actually a democracy, like in France, for instance. They are a democracy, but they just actually had everything shut down recently because they don't have the individual freedom that the constitutional republic has, to where we all have a voice. And New York and Texas and California doesn't speak for the whole country, because that would be the majority. I just have to say that. So yes, we are not a democracy. We are a constitutional.
One more thing, and then we're going to fade out, y'all. One more thing. The Trump RNC, the Trump campaign, the RNC that's out there getting getting people registered to vote and hopefully getting those votes are doing a better job. They are more unified than I've ever personally seen it as far as the Trump campaign goes over the years, all combined. And I feel like people are starting to notice that he is really, at the end of the day, he loves America. He loves everybody. And Lindsey said it earlier, it's not even about him, it's about us. He's just standing in the way, blocking the bad people from getting us. So, with that being said, I want to thank Kim Steinbrink. She's on a handful of shows. SK Podcast is her main page. You can find all of her info. She's also on Unleashed Entertainment Talk with me. Lindsey's on, 4 or 5 shows too. So, but
Chip Matthews Show, Monday and Tuesday mornings.
Yeah, WYAB. Please check that out as well. Of course, Clay, we always got to give Clay a big shout out. Been friends with him for 100 years. And basically that station does a great job. Just in a nutshell, we'll leave it at that. So I would be thanking people all day, right?
Yeah.
But no, we really honestly want to thank y'all for listening to us. And we want to thank the Madison County Republican Party, the committee. I told them today we'd be giving them shouts out. And if anybody out there is interested in knocking on doors, if anybody's interested in anything whatsoever,
the I voted sticker contest, or get out the vote, voter registration events, let us know.
Workers, poll watchers, all of that stuff. There's great training for poll workers and poll watchers. All you got to do is step in. All right, Saturday, July 20th. Thank y'all so very much. And I hope that you all have a fantastic weekend.
And party the right way.
That's right.
Party the right way. We're going to all say see you at one time. 1, 2, 3.
See ya.